What would you do if you had just won the lottery? An unlikely dream for most of us, surely, but imagine having that winning piece of paper. Would you jump up and down with excitement? Scream with joy and disbelief? Imagine all your worries and bills just melting away as life is about to be made so much easier for you. Well, unless you've seen those Life After the Lottery shows, then you know your troubles are only beginning. The Lottery by Shirley Jackson was published in an issue of The New Yorker on June 26, 1948. It has been considered a classic of short stories we know today, but at the time when it was first published, many people were not so happy about what they had just read. Letters began pouring in with anger and disgust, some people even going so far as to cancel their subscription to the magazine, stating, "I will never buy The New Yorker again. I resent being tricked into reading perverted stories like The Lottery." So why were people so angry with the story about a lottery? And how did this short story go from such a hated piece of literature to becoming one of the author's most well-known and beloved pieces of work? The story of the lottery opens in a small unnamed town where all the town members gather for an annual lottery. All the townspeople, men and women, young and old, stop what they are doing and gather in the town square. Adults gather around and talk amongst themselves, while most of the children are playing and making piles of smooth round stones. A coal merchant by the name of Mr. Summers, who oversees the lottery along with other town functions, gathers towards the head of the crowd, carrying with him a black wooden box. The box is very old, even showing signs of wear throughout the decades or even centuries since its creation. As old as the box is, though, it is not the original box, but has been made with bits of the original box, so as the tradition of the lottery can always continue on with pieces of the original box still playing a part in the tradition. The box contains slips of paper prepared by Mr. Summers and Postmaster Mr. Graves the night prior with a list of all the families in the town, with one paper slip per family. Mr. Summers is wanting to hurry and get the lottery underway so that he can get back to running his business. The lottery is very sacred and traditional, but over many years since its conception, some of the more quote-unquote unnecessary steps have been phased out or lost to time, such as a recital before the beginning of the lottery, as well as a ritualistic salute that the overseer would have to give for every person who stepped up to draw from the box. Originally, chips of wood were used in the lottery, but with the growing number of people in the town, Mr. Summers has decided it was easier and faster to substitute the wood chips for paper. So what we have here is a traditional annual lottery that is so sacred to these people, but it is so old that certain aspects and details have been allowed to change over the years to the point that people don't even know why they have this annual lottery, but it is all they know and it has been passed on for generations. Old Man Warner, one of the eldest members of the town, remembers a saying about the lottery: "Lottery in June, corn be heavy soon." Mr. Warner dislikes how much the lottery has changed, as well as the people participating, feeling they don't take the lottery seriously or they don't respect the ritual. He is someone who firmly believes in the tradition of the lottery and does not want to see it changed. We also find out that the lottery not only takes place in this town, but other towns all over the world, with some folks even talking about giving up the tradition of the lottery. Mr. Summers is just about ready to start the lottery when Tessie Hutchins comes running up. She explains she forgot what day it was, and while she was doing the dishes, she didn't see her husband or children outside, and only then remembered that it was the day of the town lottery. She jokes about being late and makes her way through the crowd to find her family, and with that, they're all ready to start the lottery. Each head of household steps up to take a slip of paper from the box. There is an air of tension when each person is called forward, but when everyone has finally drawn their slip of paper, they can finally check to see if they are the winner of the lottery. To everyone's relief, they aren't the winner, everyone except for Bill Hutchinson, husband of Tessie Hutchinson, making Bill and his family our big winner of this year's lottery. Tessie immediately protests, saying it isn't fair, you didn't give him enough time to choose a proper slip. But Bill just snaps at Tessie, telling her to be quiet, and Mr. Summers calls all the members of the Hutchinson household to come up and draw again from the box. Tessie tries to get her eldest daughter to participate in the second round of the drawings, but is reminded by Mr. Summers that as her eldest daughter is married, she is not considered a member of their household, but of her husband's household. It's clear at this point that there is something very wrong with this lottery. Each member of the Hutchinson household is called forward to draw. First, Dave, the youngest adolescent child of the 3 Hutchinson children, was helped up to the box to pick a paper. Next up, 12-year-old Nancy drew a slip while her schoolmates looked on. Third was Bill Jr., who may have been so nervous he nearly knocked the box over while selecting a slip of paper. Next up is Tessie, who reluctantly goes up and snatches a slip from the box, still thinking the initial drawing was unfair. And finally Bill, who quietly retrieved the final slip of paper from the box. There's a hushed tone amongst the crowd, with only faint whispers of school kids hoping it's not Nancy who gets picked. Mr. Summers gives the go-ahead, and they reveal their slips. A sigh of relief overtakes the crowd when they realize little Davy isn't the winner. Next, Nancy and Bill Jr. both open their paper and gleefully exclaim that it's not them. The crowd looks towards Bill, who unfolds his paper to show it's blank. They then ask Tessie to reveal her slip. Tessie, clearly shooken up, can't move, so Bill walks over to her and grabs the piece of paper to reveal a black spot. The black spot. Mr. Summers says, "Alright, let's hurry this up," and the townsfolk begin to gather up stones from the piles collected by the children earlier. Some people even give little Davy a few pebbles so he can participate. Tessie proclaims that it isn't fair as she holds out her hands in fear and desperation. As the crowd all begin to inch their way towards her, stones in hand, one stone hits Tessie on the side of the head. The final line of the story simply reads, "It isn't fair. It isn't right," Mrs. Hutchinson screamed, and then they were upon her. When I first read this story, I think it was pretty easy to tell from a mile away that this lottery these townsfolk were taking part in were not going to be about winning something, rather, spell danger for the winner. But I think what makes the story so great is not that you can guess the twist or surprised that there even is a twist at all, but how good the story and the setting are. The characters feeling so real, the outcome so morbid. When this story came out, people were upset about the content, but along with all that hate mail were questions asking Shirley Jackson what town this lottery was held in. People actually believe that Shirley Jackson wasn't just writing a story she created, but that she was recounting the story of real people in a town here in America. I've wondered if the reason people thought that this place was real was because of how awful the story is, and how flawed the characters are. Tessie was all smiles and jokes when the lottery started, but by the end, when she found out that the consequences for participating all these years meant it was finally her turn, it was no longer a game. It was no longer a joke. Unfair, she called it. Of course she was going to participate, though. After all, they had been doing this for generations. She grew up in this environment of the lottery taking place every year, and maybe even had to stone her own mother, or father, or someone close to her. Clearly we know that familial ties mean nothing here, as Tessie was willing to throw her own adult daughter under the bus as to strengthen her chances of making it out alive. Or, just maybe, she wanted to strengthen the chance of her younger children to not be selected, as she has a higher chance of losing one of her 3 children that haven't gotten a chance to grow up and experience life for themselves yet. Highly unlikely, but it's just a thought I had to make the character of Tessie more likable, I guess. But her kids are all smiles and laughter that they aren't chosen, and don't really seem to care that that means one of their parents isn't going to make it out of this alive in the next few minutes. Little Davy is given a handful of pebbles so he can take part in this horrible ritual, thus continuing the cycle of a child growing up in a world taking part in a tradition he knows nothing about, no one really remembers, or knows anything about anymore. Lost to time, but forced to continue because of tradition and because that's just the way things are. Is tradition a good thing? No. Is tradition a bad thing? Also no. Is blindly following traditions without thinking of the consequences and how they are affecting you and others around you bad, whether they are your closest family members or a complete stranger? Yes. Hello there, thank you for watching this video if you did. I know there is so much more one could talk about in this amazing short story, and probably do it much better than I can, no doubt. I'm not a big fan of talking about political topics or social topics. I feel like there are way more qualified people to talk about those things, and I'm just someone who doesn't take most things seriously, so why would I ever speak on things I have no business talking about? What was I going with this? Oh, but this story is amazing. It's horrifying, self-reflecting, entertaining, and I just love great stories like this. I hope to cover more stories soon, and not just stories, but movies, TV shows, games, basically anything that has a great story I want to discuss. I just love great storytelling, so I'm here all day for it. And a little bit of a break from movie reviews, trying something a little bit more scripted. I hope to God this turned out okay. That's all for now, folks. See you next time when I find another amazing story to dive into.